Last season, the Coventry Blaze may have shocked some fans, finishing 5th in league standings, and threatening all year to crack the top 4. Danny Stewart and his men had found that top scoring talent, along with impressive depth scoring. Finishing 3rd in goals for in the regular season, only behind the Flames and Giants. They had a solid D core, 1 through 6, of guys who could move the puck and defend the zone. And their goaltending tandem was solid. Perhaps their only major weakness was the penalty kill, with the worst in the league, at 77.27%. So what can they do this season to replicate that success, and hopefully go one step further? Before we take a look at the upcoming season, let's look at some notable departures. The biggest loss for me is Nathaniel Halbert. Losing your captain, and one of the best two-way blue liners in the league is tough. And for me, he is a guy that is difficult to replace. An above point per game defenseman last season, who leads the team, defends the zone, and hits like a truck. Next, another notable loss is losing your top forward, in Johnny Curran. With 53 points, in 54 regular season games, he had an impressive season, and will be missed. They lost a number of forwards, such as Quince, Yellowhorn, and Franti, and while they had good seasons in Coventry, I think those guys are more easily replaced. Between the pipes, Hauser moves on. He was such a character, and a heart and soul kind of guy. Fans loved him, and he was solid between the pipes for them, night in and night out. But again, I think he is replaceable. Now let's move on to the upcoming 2023-2024 season, and take a look at the roster assembled. As always, we take these lines for what they are, pure guesswork. We never know until training camp starts. In net we have Tarzan Kozin, as likely the starter, with Nolan Katz backing him up. And replacing Jordan Headley, Will Bray comes in as the number 3 option. On D, we have Blake Thompson, with Brady Norris. James Shearer with Josh Burnside on that second pair. Alexander Colley with David Clements. Rounding out that top 6, and with Archie Hazeldean as the 7th option, as they opt for 7D, 11 forwards. On the forward group, I have a top line of Kim Tallberg, Ian McNulty, and Danny Christo, which has solid potential. My second line has Kobe Roth on the left wing, with Tyler Kirkup down the middle, and Mitch Cook rounding out that top 6. On my third line, I have Cole Hauser, JD Dudek, and Jack Hopkins getting a shot at a top 9 spot. And Nathan Ripley, and Alessio Luchini rounding out that forward group. Now let's go through the roster in depth, and see where the strengths and weaknesses of this group lie. Tarzan Kozin gets a promotion, from his backup role with the Devils, to the starter in Coventry. I really like this move for them. I think last season he was probably the best goalie in Cardiff. Over his elite league tenure, he has a 2.42 goals against average, and a 92.02 save percentage, over 55 games, which is very impressive. However, there is a difference between being a great backup, and a great starter. Can he come in and perform, under the pressure of being the out-and-out number 1 guy? Backing him up is Nolan Katz. He is a bit of an unknown commodity at this point, with mixed results at the NCAA level. A sub-900 save percentage across 5 years, although it is a very competitive league. He comes in at a young age of 25, and they will be hoping he can replicate the sort of seasons Taz Berman has with the Flames, coming straight from juniors, and providing that consistent solid backup goaltending. Moving on to the D core. Blake Thompson makes the move from the Devils. Again, I like this move. I think he is a solid two-way guy. He can cover for an offensive defenseman, often playing with Crawford last year. But he does have some offensive upside, with 5 goals, and 26 points last year. Can he stabilize that left side after losing Halbert? Paired with him, I have Brady Norris. With the loss of Halbert, it's time for him to take another step offensively. The right-shot defenseman has a great shot, posting 9 goals last season. But he needs to become that offensive threat, and needs to improve on his breakout passing, and really push that 200-foot offense. Perhaps a guy like Thompson can help him to do that. I like this top pairing. On the second pair, I have James Shearer. I think this is an underrated addition, that perhaps went under the radar a bit. In his brief stint at the pro level, he has shown flashes of offensive talent. With his first call-ups to the East Coast League, he had 11 points in 13 games. Perhaps he could win a role on that top pairing, and become that offensive playmaker. They get him at a great age of 26, prime for a breakout year. What can he do on this top 4? Paired with him, I have Josh Burnside. Again, a product of the East Coast League. He used to be a forward, hence his offensive production in the minors, but this is a guy who can skate well, and move the puck. Perhaps he could take a top pairing spot? He also has that ability to join the rush, and snipe a shot. Overall, I think it's a solid top 4. I could see all 4 guys on the top pair, and I believe they will drive offense by committee. I don't know if we have an outright top guy here. On the third pair, I have Alexander Kali. We know what he brings from last season. He brings that size to the blue line, and plays a heavy, defensive role. They will be looking for more from him this season. Paired with him, I have Blaze legend, David Clements. Is this the year that he is given the captaincy? He has been a staple of this blue line, and has been one of the most consistent two-way blue liners in the league. I think they have a decent top 6 here. However, I don't know if it's as good as last year. Time will tell. Rounding out the defensive group, they have added Archie Hazeldean. I think this is a fantastic move. Showing trust in your young GB prospects is huge, and I think Archie has the higher ceiling of the brothers. If they can give him consistent ice time, which I think they will, opting for 7D and 11 forwards, they clearly value that depth on the blue line. I think this move could haunt Nottingham. Overall, their defense is solid, but I just don't know if they recover from losing Halbert. Now let's move on to the forward group. On that top line, Kim Tallberg returns. The smooth skating Swede can play either wing, but I think operates best on the left. In total last season, Tallberg played 66 games, posting 31 goals, and 59 points. He had a really strong season offensively, and they will be looking for another good year from him. Down the middle, on that top line, I have Ian McNulty. I actually prefer him on the wing, but Stewart has announced this coming season, he will be strictly a center. How will he fare with a full season at that position? We know what he can do offensively in this league. He should be good for 20 to 25 goals, and maybe 55 points on a first-line role. Completing that top unit, I have Danny Christo, fresh from his stint in Sheffield. In 60 games, the right winger added 20 goals, and 49 points, for the men in orange. The 33-year-old, is the oldest player on this young Coventry lineup. They will be looking for him to take a leadership role, and he should work well with a top line of guys who all have elite league experience. Looking at the second line, I have Kobe Roth on the left wing. I think this is a guy that when he signed, didn't create too much noise around the league, but I think could be a really good signing. He has championship pedigree, and will be expected to play a large role in the top 6. He could also be looked to play a role in improving that penalty kill. As described as a two-way winger. Watch him to have a breakout season with the Blaze. Down the middle on the second line, we have Tyler Kirkup. We only got to see 13 games of him last season, but 11 points was enough to lock him up for 2 years. At 25, he could step up in a big way offensively for the Blaze, looking to become a key contributor for a full season. And rounding out the top 6, I have Mitch Cook on the right wing. He plays a two-way game, in the same way that Kobe Roth does. I think this line will be solid on both sides of the puck. Mitch showed his offensive capabilities last season, posting 20 goals in the regular season, and playing a prominent role on the power play. He needs to keep the goal scoring up, but be assured that if it drops off, he can slide to a third line role comfortably, with other guys able to move up. Moving to the third line, I have Cole Hauser on left wing. This is another forward coming in young, at just 23 years old. Everything I can read about this guy, is that he is a hard-working, gritty player. Never scared to go to the dirty areas, forechecking, and a really hungry player. He sounds perfect for a third-line role. His points totals from juniors do not indicate we have an elite goal scorer here, but he does seem to have an underrated shot. He could be a guy that creates turnovers and finds his line mates in time and space. Down the middle I have JD Dudek, back from last season. I think they are looking for him to step up offensively next year, and I could see him grabbing a top 6 spot. I like him at center, he can play the wing, but they don't have too many outright centers on this team, so I think you want Dudek down the middle. He is the kind of player that can drive a line, and that's why I like him between 2 rookies, on a third line role. Speaking of rookies, I have Jack Hopkins, getting a top 9 role here. Now I know this may be a bold take. You look at the numbers last season with the Panthers, you see that he is 19, and you throw him on the 4th line. But for me, this is the most promising British prospect right now. Everything went wrong in Nottingham last year, for everyone. And I don't think he got an opportunity. But anyone who watches hockey, and has been paying attention, knows the skill set he has. I think you give him a top 9 role, and you give him hard workers like Don Hauser, and Dudek who are going to get the puck and feed him, especially 5-on-5, and you watch this kid thrive and blaze blue. Rounding out the forward group, I have Alessio Luchini, and Nathan Ripley. I like Ripley in a depth role, he showed last season that he can play at this level. And they will be hoping he continues to take steps. Perhaps him and Hopkins could play together for that GB duo through the season. Lastly, with Luchini, he seems like an undersized, speedy forward, who can play middle or wing. This is the most intriguing player on the forward group for me. I am not too sure where he will end up, he seems to have some upside, but perhaps not suited for a 4th line role. Could he challenge for a top 9 role, perhaps bumping Hopkins down? I am interested to see what happens here. So that's the roster. Overall, I think Blaze fans should be happy, and full of confidence for the year ahead. I like their goalie situation, but do have questions whether Kozin can keep his game, as he transitions to the outright number 1. I like their blue line in terms of depth 1 through 7. But I do wonder if anyone can step up to become that true number 1 offensive defenseman. Can they really recover from the loss of Halbert? I think their forward group is really solid, lots of guys who are responsible on both sides of the puck. Their penalty kill should improve for sure. But I do wonder about their strength down the middle, and if guys like Cook and Tallberg can replicate last season? Can McNulty perform at center for the season? And can Ripley and Hopkins take those next steps? For me, I have them finishing 6th in the league. But with the potential to go on a playoff or cup run. But I want to hear from the fans, particularly Blaze fans. What do we think of the roster assembled? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? And where do you have them finishing this season? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.